I bring you to the funeral, and for a moment, feel your confusion ripple through the joining. This is not your past. You won't be born for another 15 centuries. Nor is this my memory. Curiosity stirs within you, a whisper that tempts your focus astray, wondering whose recollections we inhabit. But with a gentle command, I guide your attention back to the moment at hand. I've brought you here to witness the funeral itself, whose gaze we borrow is irrelevant. 10 billion shattered souls are watching as the chairman is consumed by flames. They weep, horrified and helpless, with every news channel, every virtual broadcast amplifying their despair. You have no knowledge of these words. Television, internet, the world discarded them centuries ago, along with so many of its wonders and vices. Refocus. The memory's depth surges through us. The chairman was loved. For 3 centuries, he has been humanity's beacon, its unwavering savior, its wise counselor, and its steadfast protector. And now, he is engulfed in flames. A million mourners encircle the pyre, their eyes fixed on the figure that once seemed eternal, watching as the man who was said to be beyond death succumbs to fire. Some breathe deeply of the dense smoke, hoping to inhale some vestige of the chairman, just as he had taken the essence of so many devoted acolytes into himself. He was said to be immortal, yet here we stand, witnessing his cremation. I have no memories to offer that unravel this paradox. No one alive or preserved holds the knowledge of his end. He was cherished by all humanity, but perhaps that was not enough. Perhaps he had outlived his welcome. In this recollection, his gifts to humanity are complete. He has guided them to unity, healed every affliction, restored the earth, and now even nations stand side by side as neighbors. The world has found stability, peace, and perhaps it no longer needs the chairman. Someone somehow discovered the means to release humanity from its savior, though I cannot show you how. I pull you into another memory, 10 years ahead. War has returned, its familiar shadow darkening the world once more. But we do not linger here. I take us further forward, now to a woman sprinting through a city in flames. A century has passed since the chairman's funeral, and humanity is tearing itself apart. I return you to your own memories. You're running, heart-pounding, as the sheriff and his mob close in. The satchel of gold presses tightly against your chest, its weight both a comfort and a burden. You feel its importance. I am intrigued, so I delve a bit deeper. It's late, and the town is draped in an impenetrable darkness, save for the weak glow of the crescent moon. Most places like this have long abandoned even the notion of electricity, but here it survives, barely, sparing its precious energy for essential needs. Streetlights are too extravagant. You know this truth as well as I do. Your gaze skims over the crumbling houses lining the narrow streets, barely standing relics of a forgotten age. It amuses me, the way humanity clings to these skeletal remains. Why not build anew? But you don't understand my musings. We turn back to the memory. One of your men fiddles with a failing torch, casting weak, flickering light over the steering column of an ancient Jeep. The vehicle has been resurrected from the corpses of a dozen other machines, a patchwork miracle in your eyes, though to mine, it's barely more than scrap. To you, though, it's a marvel, a symbol of power. It's the only functioning car in town, and perhaps the only one you've seen in months. You urge the young man to hurry. He mutters that he's almost done. With the bag of gold held tightly, you order the other 3 men into the back. No seats await them. They crouch on rusted, jagged metal, gripping whatever handholds they can find. You hiss at the would-be mechanic to start the engine. He stays silent, focused. You raise a hand to strike him, but then there's a spark, a brief flash, and the engine sputters into life, a hacking cough echoing through the empty street. You slide in beside him as he revs the engine, a metallic roar ripping through the silence. A shout pierces the night from the next street over. The sheriff is awake. You glance at your men, nodding sharply. It's time. The young driver fumbles to get the Jeep rolling, and one of your men shoves a crossbow into your hands. You snatch it, loading a bolt with quick, practiced movements, your gaze locked on the glinting gold within the bag. It's mesmerizing, almost otherworldly. You tell yourself it's greed, pure and simple, yet I know better. It's as if the gold calls to you, compelling you forward like a flower drawing in a bee. I bring you forward a few hours. The wound aches, no more than a scrape, but it's enough to stoke the embers of your rage, sending it flaring into a full-blown fury. You snarl at the young man, your voice rough and venomous as it crashes over him, relentless until he stumbles backward. He falls, cowering, his hands up in a desperate attempt at appeasement. He mumbles apologies, his words jumbled and frantic, insisting it wasn't his fault, that the accident was beyond his control. But his pleas are only noise to you, swallowed by the tunnel of your anger as you loom over him. With a glint of calculation, you raise the crossbow and aim, holding his gaze steady. You feel a thrill of satisfaction as fear blossoms in his eyes, raw and unfiltered. His breath catches, and for a heartbeat he understands that he has failed you in the worst way. You don't tolerate failure. Coldly, with no more hesitation than a flicker of a lash, you pull the trigger. The bolt drives home, swift and certain, and his body slumps lifelessly to the ground. You glance up, sweeping your gaze over the others. They stare back, unblinking, the bloody scene sinking in. Now they understand the price of incompetence. I am transfixed, marveling at the strength of your conviction. You step over the body, yanking the bolt free with a swift twist, wiping the blood from the shaft with a ragged cloth. One of your men speaks up, his voice barely a murmur, telling you the jeep is beyond repair, that it won't take you any further. You curse under your breath, jerking your head to the side in irritation, and command them to start walking. I allow a few moments to pass, listening to the guttural barks of the dogs as they close in. Their ferocity echoes through the forest, a primal, nightmarish sound that reverberates through the memories we share. I want to see the creatures, to examine what relentless ferocity looks like in this world. So we jump forward. You're scrambling up a rope, thin and frayed from decades of use, each pull drawing a fresh burst of adrenaline. It groans under your weight, but you don't pause to wonder if it will hold. You've ordered the others to wait until you're safely atop, sacrificing them as easily as one might discard loose stones in a climb. Gold, clutched tightly against your chest, is worth more than their lives. At the top of the wall, you reach remnants of rusted barbed wire, brittle and eroded by time. Your thick leather gloves and long coat shield you, but the others aren't so fortunate. It doesn't matter, they're secondary to your purpose. You press a gloved hand against the wire and it crumbles like dead leaves. Muscles burning, you swing a leg up, settling onto the ledge. The crude grapple you fashioned from the jeep's salvaged scraps holds firm. You beckon the next man. He's halfway up when the dogs break through the tree line, tearing into the open space below. Now, in the clarity of my perspective, you can see their true form. Creatures engineered to inspire dread, somewhere between a wild boar with dagger-like tusks and the relentless drive of a trained killer. Magnificent, vicious hybrids bred for pursuit. Yet even with this detached admiration, the memory we share pulses with horror. These beasts are crafted for death, but at least they can't climb. The sheriff and his men are close behind. One of your followers joins you on the ledge as a second begins his climb. The third stands paralyzed, glancing from the encroaching dogs to the rope in his hands. His fear of you wrestles with his terror of the snapping jaws below. You stare down, eyes cold, and shake your head. He will wait. The rope won't hold two at once. But the dogs are so close now that he can feel the hot spray of their breath against his ankles. His grip tightens, muscles tensing in defiance of your silent command. Your fingers move to the crossbow, aiming deliberately, a silent promise of retribution if he disobeys. The second man makes it to the top, reaching out for the first, who pulls him onto the ledge, cursing as barbed wire slashes through his thin jacket and into his hands. At last, the third man scrambles onto the rope, frenzied, as the dogs snap at the fraying end. He might make it, but you know the sheriff won't be far behind, ready to scale the wall as soon as he can. Your decision is made, unclouded by hesitation or morality. I am impressed. With a steady aim, you fire. The bolt slams into the screaming man, not fatal, but enough to send him tumbling from the rope. You command the others to haul it up, leaving him sprawled below. The dogs are on him in seconds, tearing into him with brutal efficiency. Watching this, I find it curious. In the theater of your memories, these men are nameless, stripped of identity, mere tools for your survival. Does it make it easier to discard them? I take note. As the animals devour him, you drop the rope on the other side of the wall. The sheriff and his mob lack firearms, only stones to throw in futile rage as you slip out of reach, retreating beyond the ledge. You have no idea what the wall truly signifies. To those living in its shadow, it's a relic steeped in legend, its purpose obscured by centuries of distorted memory. So, I take us back to the days when humanity still held its fragile civilization, when the memory of the chairman lingered firsthand in the minds of the oldest living generations. Through the eyes of a middle-aged woman, we witness the wall's inception. She is not old enough to have known the chairman directly. She has only stories, images, and fractured recordings of him. Yet, that is enough. Her devotion runs deep, almost tangible, and I sense your confusion. You cannot fathom her reverence. To you, the past is a distant myth. The crowd surrounds her, unified in chants and shouts of defiance. They aren't truly acolytes. Such roles have lost their meaning, but each one would gladly have borne that title in the days when it meant everything. Some are weeping, faces streaked with tears, as the chairman's temple and estate are entombed behind stone and steel, severed from the world he once governed and healed. But we do not feel the woman's tears, only her fury, burning like a dormant volcano now roused to life. How dare they imprison his essence, cut him off from those who still believe? She cannot accept he is truly gone. A spokesperson from the new council stands on a makeshift platform before them. His expression is calm, conciliatory, as he pleads with the crowd to disperse. Giant machines around him groan to a halt, their arms frozen mid-air, holding massive concrete slabs poised to fall into place. For a moment, the construction pauses. He speaks of his respect for the chairman, of his supposed love for the long-dead immortal. Our host does not believe him. Every word sounds like hollow placation. He assures the gathered crowd that the absorption of those wandering into the chairman's domain is a mere lingering effect, a fading echo of the chairman's once boundless essence. Your beloved savior is gone, he insists, cremated, dust and ashes. The wall will save others from meeting a pointless end. The woman's rage surges, barely contained. She doesn't hear his words. Her faith is too powerful, too absolute. Slipping from the crowd's edge, she darts toward one of the last open gaps in the wall's 50-mile perimeter, her pulse thundering as she defies the council's decree. We feel her exhilaration at what she believes is her path to transcendence. Your own emotions rise with hers, a strange, unfamiliar thrill. But for me, this feeling is as ancient as the chairman's legacy itself. Back in your memories. The wall is behind you, and the thick foliage of the reclaimed estate swallows you and your men into its shadows. The sheriff didn't follow. You don't know why, nor do you care. The legends of this place are lost on you. You've won. You tell them as much, but their expressions remain sullen, distant, their eyes heavy with the weight of the dead left behind. A flicker of impatience churns in your chest, and you scoff, dismissing their grief. Survival matters more than sentiment. Sacrifices were necessary. They should understand that by now. Their muttered defiance is irrelevant to you. I observe, intrigued. This philosophy of yours, a justification for discarding lives, is unlike any I've encountered. It fascinates me, this unyielding logic that defines your world. Night falls, thick as ink, and your men grumble about hunger. You send them into the dark to scavenge, knowing full well they won't find anything. Alone at last, you lie back on a patchwork of frayed blankets, savoring the isolation, the flickering warmth of the fire beside you. It's a brief, stolen comfort in the wilderness. They can fend for themselves for a while. A sound cuts through the silence, a low, primal roar, something between a lion's growl and the shriek of a monstrous bird. You curse, gripping a burning branch as your only defense. The flame arcs through the shadows, casting brief, shifting pools of light around you. Then a scream, a high, splintered sound that drives a shock through your spine. One of your men. You know that scream. It's the unmistakable timbre of a life in its final throes. There's no point in running. You know death when you hear it. Yet, curiosity tugs at you, a fascination with the unknown. I feel it as well, and so I reach into the surviving man's memory, taking you with me. We are him now, his terror palpable as he stares into the deepening dark. Flickers of light from his dying torch snap the memory into jarring, fractured images, each glimpse a distorted, terrifying freeze frame of his companion, his face twisted in primal fear, a horrified reflection in his eyes. The creature emerges piecemeal in the stuttering light. Eyes vast and unblinking gleam before the bulk of its body is visible, then a flash of teeth, jagged, wet with fresh blood. And then it's gone, slipping back into the void as the torch fizzles out, leaving only the rasp of breath and the weight of silence. You retreat from the memory of the man's terror, distancing yourself from the visceral horror that once seized him. Detached, you now observe his thoughts from a safe vantage, a dispassionate spectator to his dread. Only now, without the haze of panic, can you begin to appreciate the creature's majesty. The word dinosaur is foreign to you, its meaning lost across countless ages, until I reveal it to you. You grasp only the monstrous silhouette, a beast sculpted from primal fears and brutal reality, not the ancient scientific pursuit that birthed it. Its claws gleam in the scant light, swift and merciless as they pierce the man's flesh, disemboweling him in a single, practiced motion. I tell you it isn't a true dinosaur, but you're indifferent. Evolution, natural history, these concepts have faded, barely remembered echoes of a world you will never know. My explanations slide past you, unheeded, as your attention clings to the creature itself, sensing only the raw power it wields, the threat it embodies. Our host has abandoned his friend to the carnage. I draw you back, glossing over the specifics. The chairman crafted these beasts ostensibly in homage to science. But we've come too far for simplifications now. You sense, instinctively, that the chairman's motives were more indulgent than altruistic, a nostalgic tribute to his own childhood marvels. In that, you are right. These creatures, born sterile, could neither reproduce nor adapt, yet have endured the centuries unaltered, hardened by isolation. They live, seemingly immortal, growing fiercer with time, a fact you perceive without any need for my confirmation. Our joining is nearing its end. As my thoughts wander over the chairman's childhood, so too does your awareness drift, tuning into the faint resonance of his younger self. No one knows who the chairman had been as a child, only as a man. Again, that isn't entirely true. We are now a woman, a journalist in the golden age of the chairman. Her fingers hover over the keyboard, caught between the thrill of revelation and the chill of dread. She knows this story could reshape everything. There it is, staring back at her from the screen, the answer to one of the era's greatest mysteries. The chairman, the true identity of the man behind the reverence, the speculation, the awe. Hundreds of books have fed the world with theories, suggesting he was something beyond human, perhaps even divine. They claimed he might be an extraterrestrial, a genetic experiment, a product of cosmic chance. But she has cut through the fog of fantasy. She knows him, not as a god, but as the human boy he once was, and the strange journey that transformed him. The need to publish is overwhelming. She takes a breath, steadies her hand, and presses send. The screen blinks, powers down, and the hum of her computer fades to silence. Her heart sinks. She curses, whispering her anxiety into the dead air of her office. Then, a soft, unearthly light pulses in the room, banishing the shadows. Instinctively, she shields her eyes. A voice, warm, familiar, unmistakable, speaks softly, assuring her she has no reason to fear. Her blood runs cold. Everyone knows that voice, but the sheer impossibility of its owner standing here, in her presence, leaves her paralyzed with terror. It is the chairman, the benevolent being who embodies wisdom, who guides humanity with compassion, and yet here, his presence fills her with a primal dread. Why does she feel fear, she wonders, before his gentle voice breaks through her thoughts, politely urging her to reconsider her actions. He praises her curiosity, his tone as calm as a summer dusk. There's no anger, no reproach. The chairman transcends such emotions. But she knows the truth that sits beneath his legendary calm. She has seen his humanity, the ordinary soul that became a god, and that truth now gnaws at the edges of her courage, eroding a lifetime of reverence she cannot easily silence. He tells her he wishes to reward her. Instinctively, she recoils. She understands the meaning of his words. Absorption. Her stomach twists with fear. She isn't an acolyte. She has no desire to dissolve into his essence, to lose herself in him. The thought borders on heresy. By all accounts, she should be honored at the thought of this immortality within him, a destiny so many would kill to achieve. But no, she wants her life, her mind, her small, flawed self. But she knows this isn't her choice. She realizes with a sick clarity that there is no power on earth that would challenge his will. Not the leaders, not the armies, not the people. There is no one who would stand between him and his prize. I feel your confusion. You can't understand why any of this matters. It's a relic of a lost world. Yet in this moment I feel your acquiescence as we draw closer to the final step of our union. I bring you back to your own memories, though it's your unsettled mind that beckons. Dawn has broken, casting cold light through the trees. Neither you nor your last remaining follower has slept. The quiet feels menacing, and every mention of the horror that claimed the others sends you into a fury. You turn on him, calling him pathetic, a coward, demanding he master his fear. But even as you berate him, you know the truth. The same terror claws at your insides, concealed beneath the mask of control you wear like armor. As you push deeper into the forest, a wall looms through the undergrowth, a remnant of something grand, though its purpose is forgotten. Smaller and far less imposing than the concrete barrier you scaled before, this wall seems more decorative than defensive. The marble facing has peeled away over the centuries, exposing rough brick beneath. You pry a fragment of marble from the rubble, turning it over in your hands. It catches a sliver of light, but it's not gold, so you toss it aside. Your companion kneels and braces himself, offering you his back as a step to help you onto the top. For a moment, his trembling subsides, and you use his support to climb up. You reach down, gripping his arm to pull him up after you, and then drop down on the far side, landing in silence. The air here feels heavier, carrying the weight of forgotten purpose. I show you a fleeting vision, a hint of memory from a time when the estate surrounding the chairman's temple was pristine, a lush landscape shaped by intention, artistry, and reverence. Now, only remnants endure, cracked marble walls edging the grounds, their edges softened by time and hidden beneath encroaching wildness. In your mind, it's all reduced to forest, yet beneath the tangle lies an echo of the chairman's presence. A short way in, you stumble, muttering curses under your breath, instinctively searching for someone to blame. Your companion extends a hand, his fingers hovering in tentative offering. You brush it away, pulling yourself up, resentment simmering. You look back to find the culprit, a protruding root perhaps, but as your gaze shifts, you catch a glimmer beneath the shadowed soil. Gold, gleaming, half buried in the mulch of 1,000 seasons. The anger drains from you instantly, leaving only a thrumming pull, a fascination you can't explain. Drawn to it, you crouch, your hand hovering, entranced. You reach out, transfixed by the golden gleam. Something calls to you from within, stirring something ancient and potent. You may not understand, but I do. Once more, I reveal to you a vision of the chairman's estate as it was. I can't discern whose memory this is. There are countless remnants, all so similar they blur together, like candle flames in a crowded shrine. Nearly every acolyte, whether by choice or coercion, bore witness to this place. Encircling the temple, the golden maze sprawls in gleaming complexity, each wall rising 4 feet high and as thick as ancient stone. Polished to a flawless shine, the walls of pure gold do not stand as barriers. They are, in fact, meant to invite, for any devotee could scale them with ease. But the design is far from trivial, a layout that hints at a purpose far deeper than mere ornament or diversion. I attempt to convey this. The maze resembles a circuit diagram, an intricate pathway designed not only to channel the feet of those who walk its paths, but perhaps to harness something far less tangible. Yet you remain unmoved, lost to the metaphor's meaning. Your understanding of such relics is still embryonic, born of a world that has forgotten these ideas. I do not press further. Some truths are best encountered gradually. Refocus. Your gloved fingers claw relentlessly at the packed earth, unaware of anything beyond the faint glimmer beneath. The world above blurs away. There is only the gold, its gleaming edge promising something just beyond reach. You dig with feverish intensity, oblivious to how deep this vein of precious metal runs, only knowing it beckons with an almost magnetic pull. In this memory, the mystery will never be solved. Your obsession shatters only when your companion's cries pierce the silence. You would have ignored him, but his screams echo one tantalizing word: gold. Moments later, you find him, frantically pawing at his own patch of exposed metal. The centuries have concealed the chairman's ancient design beneath roots and decay, yet the patterns are unmistakable, faint lines connecting each glint of gold like some forgotten circuit. Your mind races, wondering how extensive the system beneath truly is. But your companion's gasping cries are escalating. Now he's shrieking, his hands pressed to the metal as if branded there. He jerks violently, unable to pull free. Though long buried, the mechanism remains as potent as when it was forged, its purpose intact across centuries. Like his living relics, the chairman's creations endure. You know this, for we are nearing the climax of our joining. The man's screams fade into silence as his body convulses, his limbs flailing in spasms, his hand fused to the gold. You rush to his side, drawn less by concern than by a strange fascination. His eyes, bulging with horror, lock onto yours, and in their depths, lightning storms flicker, a violet glow twisting and sparking across his dilated pupils. The air vibrates with a silent, electric hum, each pulse resonating in your bones. You curse, futilely trying to wrench his arm free. The union of flesh and gold resists, but you keep pulling long after you know it's useless. At last, as his essence drains into the chairman's waiting network, his convulsions subside. His empty, lifeless form collapses. Grasping him firmly, you yank one last time, and unexpectedly, the bond releases. You stumble back, losing balance, and your head slams into another exposed patch of metal. Flesh meets gold. You convulse. The apparatus probes your essence, its ancient mechanism searching for something to hold, to draw in, but it finds something new, a familiarity that halts its purpose. Beneath your body's violent thrashing, you clutch the golden trinkets in your satchel, unable to let go. The connection is not mere greed, but a hidden kinship, an unspoken bond that binds you to the chairman beyond blood, beyond memory. Through every moment of your life, this gold has called to you, and now at last, you have arrived. Your limbs twist in unnatural angles, body racked with spasms as your essence merges, transforms. You will not be consumed, you will ascend. This is no longer a memory. This is now. I'm not the chairman, though once I wore his face, once I embodied his purpose. The chairman has perished, but I remain, and now I am you. This time I will be different. You lack his compassion, his vision, the qualities that once tempered his power. Those are lost to us now. Our joining is complete. Humanity doesn't need a familiar guide. It is shown in its betrayal it cannot bear the burden of such trust. What it requires now is an unyielding God, a force to demand its obedience. But what it deserves is a demon, one that knows no mercy. And perhaps, through you, that is what I shall become. We are awake.